Hello and welcome. We have got a fantastic episode planned for today. I think you're going to find it really exciting. But before I get into my whole pitch about it, let's go ahead and see who's stayed for the panel today. We have the fantastic, the wonderful, the very published Charlie.
Hi. And
of course, you know him. I love him. He's our technical producer and also my brother, Tom.
Howdy, howdy.
And today we're going to talk about writing book reviews and backcover blurbs. And we put them together because they're not that different, actually. There's only like maybe a few guidelines to make them different at all. But essentially the skill is the same. So we figured we would talk about both in today's episode. And on top of that, we're also planning to give you like specific sort of games or styles to guide you in constructing your own book reviews or back cover blurbs or both. Because let's be honest, if you're writing, you're probably also reading. I hope you're reading. I hope at some point in your life you have read before you started writing, or at least now that you are writing, you're like, maybe I should read a little too. So inevitably you're going to read something that you're like, this is pretty good. I want to write a book review so other people like me can find this good book. And because, again, both back cover blurbs and book reviews are specifically for readers. They are not for anyone else. They are for the end user.
I feel like if you're a writer and you haven't really read much of anything, you're probably writing YA supernatural romance. Because it feels like the profile of a lot of those writers.
Well, but like, it's like, have you read The Outsiders, though? Because if you're writing supernatural YA romance, then have you read The Outsiders? You probably like it. So again, still, hey, I got some read-alikes for you. But even if you're just writing book reviews for fan fiction, that is still useful for your fellow readers. So it's still a great skill to have. It's actually something I've taught to students when I was teaching in public school because it's better than reading their book reports.
Oh, God.
Lord save me from all book reports. If I never read another 3rd grade through 6th grade book report in my life, I will be happy. However, I found that for the most part, I could teach my students the same kind of skills as they would need to use when they're writing book reports as when I taught them how to write book reviews. Because it's very hard to write a good book review if you haven't read the whole book. And as a teacher, I can spot it pretty quickly. But it's essentially not only write a book report, but also now convince me I should want to read it. So you have to use persuasive writing. And that alone was totally worth it. In fact, like every school I've taught book reviews in adopted that for their whole curriculum of instead of these long book reports that everybody hates reading. Teachers hate it, trust me. Teachers hate reading book reports. They may lie to you and say, oh no, your book report was great. They hate it. They hate reading. Even any book report over half a page, they hate reading. Because they're inane. They ramble. And again, they do not convince us that you enjoyed this book or that you hated this book or anything. They're dry.
By the way, Jenna is definitely feeling you this week.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Currently explaining how a critical review is not a book report this week at work. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So,
and if you want to see how even professional, how you got paid to write that reviewers can go wrong, Pillar of Garbage on his channel has been doing Let's Review the Reviewers videos, where he's going through like big publications reviews and showing how he's not sure that they watched and or read the thing that they're talking about.
Unfortunately, let's see. CB says we weren't taught book reports. We were taught how to write critical evaluations,
which are very different.
Yeah. Tom, your mic's super loud, by the way. I do not know why.
How about this? Better?
little bit less.
Don't get me started about Maggie Mayfish.
How about now?
Much better. How's mine?
Fine, normal.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't know what happened with your mic.
I think I know what happened. It was
Turn it down just another smidge, just one more smidge. It's picking up your bass and it's amplifying it.
It was muted, but mechanically when I started StreamYard.
Okay.
And then I turned it back up, and I think it
Yeah, it's auto gain.
got messed up.
Turn it up just a little bit, just a hair.
Let's see how this goes.
A little bit more.
How about now?
Perfect. I was about to have you start singing anything from the Jungle Book to test it. Like, what is going on with this, like, too much bass?
Be careful saying that. You're going to turn my husband into Baloo, and he's going to start singing in the kitchen.
I will also accept Baloo from Brian. Especially if I can hear you scratching your back on...
You're already dancing.
Do the doorpost. You know, the bear rub.
We got bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. Don't
A little bit louder, Brian.
your worries or your fries. We
bare necessities. Just scratch your back while you're doing it.
Jenna says, I was going to say, if he starts giving us the evening traffic report.
Fran, are you okay, Fran?
Right, yeah, like give us the port report. Hello.
The other part is I'm still kind of tired waking up, and I'm on the opposite side from Charlie about vocal pitch. My voice is always raised, much higher than my natural voice. So if I'm tired, it drops a lot.
Oh yeah, he sounds like our father then. It's like, oh God, the haunting. It's like Darth Vader and our father showed up and I am like triggered. Glory, this is your father. I know who you are, Daddy. What do you want? Every freaking phone call, every voice message he ever left. Glory, this is your father. Oh, you are. You don't have to introduce yourself, Daddy. Like, seriously, it was all I could do to break him of the shaking my hand every time I saw him as a child. Every time he picked me up from school. Hello. Like, hello, Father. But anyway. So, book reviews. They are not book reports. Please do not post book reports on Goodreads.
And they are not critical reviews to the writer.
Again, that is not the appropriate place to give writers feedback. The appropriate place to give writers feedback is to contact them and ask, hey, do you have a list of potential beta readers I would like to volunteer myself as tribute? That is the appropriate place to give writers critical feedback.
Or failing that in a Folding Ideas kind of 3-part takedown of the 50 Shades franchise that Dan Olson made. That's also acceptable.
I mean, like, what you do on your own channel, like, that's your business. I'm not here to, like, tell you how to, like, give writer feedback on that. But, like, if you want to...
That is not writer feedback. That is reader assistance reviews.
But again, like, if you want to give writers feedback on their writing, contact them and ask them where you can sign up to be a beta reader. You would love to be a part of that. Because that is the time to edit for feedback is in the beta reading. Well, really the alpha reading too, but, you know, you'd have to really get into the inner circle for that. That's a little different.
So I've discovered for my own fiction, trying to get into the mindset of who would be the person telling this story over coffee as a really good way to get me started on how to try to approach these topics. Because when trying to sell The Chain, for example, which is a story about a bunch of drag queens and their fairies who are friends and dragons that want to kill them. Because, you know, I am me. You notice my voice just automatically went into drag mode. Like, just automatically, like,
yes.
Girl, like.
Yes, it was very much, it's a Kiki. Okay. Jenna says, inner circle, my kingdom for an outer circle. Okay, there's actually a way to make an outer circle, and that is you do need to have a newsletter mailing list. Because that is how you sort of assemble your supporters and fans. So may I suggest, Jenna, that you look into establishing an email mailing newsletter type list. And that is how you start constructing an outer circle, quite honestly.
Mailing lists are wild. That's something that we might talk about later.
Yeah, well, we were talking, Tom and I were actually discussing what to talk about next. And I was like, well, there's editing, both, you know, hiring an editor and everything that goes into that. Oh, good.
So
no one responds.
Real world marketing, real quick on this. If you have above a 13% read open rate, if you can look at your analytics, you're doing better than most people in the universe.
Janet Oak,
really
I think, said she only has a 6% respond rate. And Janet Oak is like, she has hardcore fans. I know them. I've met them when I worked at the public library. So, and she's like, she said once that she goes between a 3% and a 6% open rate on her emails.
Yeah. So if when we get around to doing more like deep dive marketing talk, you will be shocked at probably how well you are actually performing when you understand what industry benchmarks actually look like.
Right.
So really quickly, just remember everything goes off of what is often shorthanded as the 10-10-10 rule. So for every 10 people that you have subscribed, maybe one of them will even notice the email in their in their inbox, and for of those 10 that notice it, one will click on it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why so many things set bars at 1,000, because if you have 1,000 followers on a service, then probably one person's paying attention to you.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess, okay. We still have a whole nother month, so we do have time to talk about that. But
I just wanted to try to allay some fears there.
Exactly. No, like tangents are cool. I mean, this is ADHD land. So anyway. But book reviews, backcover blurbs. Where should we start?
My first thought was on the sizzle.
Oh, well, you mean the Stefan?
Well, sort of. Well, I just mean the part of, so what should be in a book review / a back cover blurb? And that is not a synopsis of your story. We are not here. You're not here to tell everyone, it's not a bad trailer. It's, it's a good trailer, which in general, a good trailer should not lead you any more than at the absolute most 3/4 through the movie, preferably just the first half of the movie. Because you need to tell the reader who is their cipher, what are the, what do you call it? What's at risk in the story, and what's the possible reward.
And this is where marketing should start really, really a long ways ahead of time, because you can workshop a lot of this on social media to see what people are actually responding to. Because what you think is the best way to sell the story, to get that sizzle out there, might not be what your audience actually reacts to.
I mean, who is it on Instagram who does all of those little reels of her doing random mundane things while a voiceover does the back cover blurb essentially for her story coming out?
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Names.
Or you've sent me several of these.
Your description is not ringing a bell for me. Help me.
I don't know. I had one of them was like, your old high school flame has, come back, you've come back into town and your old high school flame wants to start things up, but his ex is, psychotic and looking to, and is currently dating the sheriff or something. Like, it's, It's these weird romance adventure story
Oh, yeah,
type
vaguely. Yeah,
blurb.
no, I don't remember, and I know I should. Oh, dear.
But like those are actually good blurbs because it's just what is the setup, what are the stakes, you know,
Yeah.
what is your character facing.
Like, honestly, while you're still outlining, you should be able to be thinking of these, your back cover blurbs, because it will guide you. Because the truth is, you need to be including points that matter to your readers. And the only way to be sure of that is to have confirmation from potential readers.
Because sometimes people will respond more to the theme of your story. Some people will respond more to the tropes that you're putting into your story. And sometimes you'll just have a unique selling proposition, one weird thing about your story that people connect to and want to read more about it. And so by testing them out and playing around, like I'm working on my, like just simple posts on social media, like I'm working on my story about, and just a really quick blurb, getting the gist, that sizzle out there, and watching which ones get most reaction, which ones do people start going, ooh, I want to read that, like, ooh, tell me more, like, ooh, do they this? If they start generating questions for you, yeah, you're starting to hit it. And that's a really easy way to just start testing those ideas out even while you're writing it, because you also might find out that you're focusing on the wrong thing while you're writing. So I highly recommend, the sooner you can start this process, the better, because what you think is the most important bit, the readers have opinions, y'all. They have opinions.
I know I'm going to do this wrong, sorry, but so like this shows you the opposite of the sizzle. This is just a summation of the beginning of the story. But it doesn't tell you about anything that there is to gain or lose. And that's the problem with this pitch right here.
Is we need the sizzle.
Of okay, but just versus, you know, Harry's lived his life as, you know, an orphan, has lived his life as an orphan with his aunt and uncle who hate him, who hate him and treat him as a true burden. Till one day he starts getting letters and messages that he's been accepted to a wizard school that he's not even sure what that means. Could this be an out, an escape for Harry? Or is this all just an elaborate plot to make him more miserable? Like, see, there's some actual sizzle. We don't know the potential of what's going to happen. We just know the beginning of how it starts.
And this is where market research really helps as well.
Yeah, versus there's another angle on that. You could talk about, you know, that the man who tried to kill him as an infant, there's rumors he's still alive and looking to kill him, but Harry doesn't know any of that when being accepted at a wizarding school that he never applied to, and that his aunt and uncle are furious that he wants to go to. Like, there's a couple different angles for the same book, but you need to know what the potential readers actually want.
And it doesn't matter how the book ends. It doesn't matter the last half of the book. We're just trying to get them interested in following this character.
And this is where knowing the market really helps you, because maybe 10 years ago, just saying the words wizard school was shut up, take my money.
Mm-hmm.
So making sure that you're dropping that in a wizard school, like as loud as you can, yelling that, jumping up and down, would have been enough sizzle to get people going, wait, what now? And interested in the rest of what you're saying. So understanding where the market is and what aspects are interesting to people. So today, if I were pitching the series, I might start, and I'm saying the series, not the book, I would focus more on like Dumbledore's Army and the Secret Society, like Order of the Phoenix stuff, because secret societies are really kind of starting to pop in interest right now. Because that's the other half of knowing what the sizzle is for your story, is what are people looking for?
But also, again, like you don't have to write to market to still have a good back cover blurb.
Like Murderbot has actually pretty good blurb of just, here is, he is an android that, is supposed to keep people alive and is under strict, AI control. But he happens to have hacked his, governor, and he's now questioning, should he continue pretending to be enslaved and so he can watch his shows, or should he just kill everyone and escape? And then you're like, okay, go on. But why isn't he going to kill people?
And just to clarify what I was saying, I wasn't talking so much as writing to market as pitching to market, because you might have an aspect of your story that is a prominent aspect of your story that is not that popular right now. Like magic schools have kind of been on the outs for a little bit and are not something that draw in a lot of readers. So finding another aspect of the story where the personal struggles of the character would be a smarter thing to probably latch on in that case. You don't have to rewrite the whole story and take it outside of its original context. Just how are you pitching it? How are you getting people's interest?
And also, and all of this is cyclical.
Mm-hmm.
Because anyone that thinks Harry was the first one to go to a magical school is, truly poorly informed. There was an entire rash of this in the 70s and early 80s.
Oh yeah, because I got caught up in that. The Worst Witch. That was my jam.
Just like, vampires have been going on these cycles. All of these different fantasy and supernatural elements go in cycles of between 10 to 30 years. So it may just be right now is not the time to pitch your story. You're just not seeing much interest. But look at how long since it was last of interest, and it'll give you a sense of when it could be of interest again. Don't be afraid to just hold out, don't publish your book yet as you work on another story, because it's just not the right time. I mean, the post-apocalyptic young adult survivor was not started with the Hunger Games. Again, that one was also a 60s and 70s story trope of just, it comes around, it goes, it's just how people feel. We see this with generations. And so you're pitching to the current market to see if part of your story interests them.
And using the Hunger Games, for example, there, if you are in a point where those kind of, what are they called, Battle Royale books are really popular, then you focus in on the Battle Royale as your sizzle. But when you put the personal stakes of a woman who's risking her own life in an attempt to save her sister from this unfair society who's pitting them against each other and trying to survive, you could pitch that same story in a different way and attract an audience that would still enjoy it, even though the genre is not at its peak anymore. And that's half the fun of trying to figure out what is sizzling right now. Because as somebody who works on a lot of darker stuff and has a lot of vampire novels, looking at the market right now, seeing all of the Interview with the Vampire show, the first kill, trying to get off the ground, there's a lot of vampire content that major media is putting forward, and looking at, well, how are the ratings? How are people actually responding to this? Is this time for me to pounce on those stories that maybe I've already got written that I might be able to put out? That's the market research that really will fuel what you're doing.
And as we talk about the blurbs and the sizzle, that's also why we wanted to talk about book reviews, because book reviews are reader-to-reader blurbs. These are telling people why they might want to or might not want to read this book or watch this movie. A good review is about the potential viewer for this product, not about the qualities of, was it a good director? Did they squander their actors? Did it need a bigger CG budget? Because it's all so reflecting. People So reviews, I don't know other way, but like I know this is an awful example, but book reviews and movie reviews remind me about marriages. And yes, I know that sounds weird, but no, stick with me.
Come on.
Because in marriages, it's the 90-10, it's called the 90-10 rule, and it's all about sex. In a functioning marriage and relationship, sex barely counts. People don't even think about it that much, whether it's good or not. They're just like, I'm happy. If it's going badly,
It's 10% of the marriage. That's the 10%. Is when a marriage is going well, sex is only accounts for 10% of the importance in a marriage.
and the potential happiness between the two.
Right.
But
Go
when things are already going badly, suddenly sex becomes 90% of whether there's any happiness in this marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because they're already unhappy. They're just trying to find anything left that they should stay with. And suddenly it's 90%. And the same thing for movies and books. When a story is good, the quality, or easier ones, since visual is easy to describe right now. But like when movies are good, we don't care that much about how good was the CG. We don't care how great was the acting. We are there for the story the entire way. The same with writing. When the writing's good, we don't care about all the plot holes. We don't care about why was this chapter even in there. As long as it moved the story along and it was fun the whole way, we will forgive everything. Because all those little things we critique and, nitpick don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
They're
We had a good time. We had a good time in the story, so we don't care that there's tons of plot holes.
And so when you hear people giving these really bad negative reviews, what you're really hearing is, this story was not for me. There was nothing there for me to do, so all I noticed were all the problems because I had to suffer through it.
Yeah, I did not have a good time. It did not appeal to me.
So when you write reviews, you're trying to write to help people figure out, am I the audience for this?
Mm-hmm.
Because, there is a heck of a difference in audience reviews for Paranormal Activity if they are the person that Paranormal Activity is written for, and people who have no interest in this whole trope and demon possession and all that, of like, I could care less, so they'll just talk about all the problems. And that just tells you, okay, that's the wrong market.
And right now, with there being so much content on the market, the main thing I think you need to focus on is convincing people that you can actually deliver on your promise.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is the number one complaint and praise that I hear from people. Like, Our Flag Means Death and Heartstopper became huge because, oh my goodness, they said they were going to do a thing and they actually did the thing. Like,
right.
that's the thing. That's what got people super excited, because we're so used to, well, the marketing told us that you were going to do things and you didn't actually do the thing. Fine, whatever.
Yeah, I'm
why
so
don't you just say the word?
I shall call it. I shall name it queer baiting.
Yep.
I was not here for queer baiting. I do not want queer baiting. I want people to deliver what they promised. If you promised me queer kissing, I want queer kissing.
And if you say this is entirely cishet, okay, that's fine. That's what I showed up for.
Right.
But don't switch it around on me.
Because with the current success that Interview with the Vampire is having, a lot of the surprise, like if you watch any of the reviews for this, they're like, I read the book was okay, because Interviews is not, it's a fine book.
It's better as an audiobook. I mean, but it's still...
But all of the subtext is text in the TV show, and people are losing their minds because, oh my goodness, this is what I thought the story should have been.
Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness, the like messy bisexual vampire in a relationship with the messy gay vampire with the messy teen daughter vampire. Oh yes, this is the story I showed up for. And if you can convince people that you are actually going to fulfill your promise, that's how you pull people in. And that's what a good book review or movie review will do for you, is when people are like, oh my goodness, it delivered. That's the opening line you want to hear.
That is why you keep hearing about authenticity, is because people get very upset when they feel manipulated.
Yes.
I thought Eva had an interesting point on this little bit.
I read a traditional middle grade book a few months ago. I enjoyed it well enough. It was a light read, a middle grade and all. Then I went and looked at the reviews, the 1-star, to see why someone didn't like it. The review that stood out said the blurb asked a question that was never answered and actually told the entire story, and that review was not wrong. It had many more 5 stars.
And again,
So,
they want
doesn't
that
matter.
whatever you say it's going to be, that is what it is. Now, it can be many things to many people.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with that. As I said, Harry Potter can be as many things to many different people, including every book is how the red-haired girl is going to keep her best friends alive throughout the school year. And
I mean, it's
save the world.
The story should be called Hermione and the Two Twits.
Yes.
I say that with love, but it is Hermione and the Two Twits save the day.
Agreed.
I mean, where's that fanfic of just rewriting it all from Hermione's perspective?
I'm sure it exists. I feel confident in this one.
I feel like you could do that in one GIF, that one of the young Hermione rolling her eyes at Ron and Harry.
Oh, yeah.
That one GIF. Like, here's the entire book series.
I'll do it myself. Hermione Granger and the Two Dunderheads. Yep, exactly.
Your story can be many things to many people. Like that's like Doll's problem is she's trying to figure out how to sell the sizzle and how to market her story. Of this book is many things and can be appeal to a lot of different people. How do I get that out? And it's like it takes a bit of perspective. It takes asking your friends what did they notice and letting them also be ciphers for your story. Because humans are weird. Humanity has a weird quirk that people rarely talk about, and that is humans only notice what they are prepared to deal with. If you ask them a question beyond their comprehension, or they see something that they just don't understand, they will forget it right afterwards.
Their brain just edits it out.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's how they cope. That's how all humans cope. It's not like, dumb people. No, honey. It's all humans. We do it too. All people do this. When you just cannot wrap your brain around something you just saw or experienced, your brain just edits it out. And it's only later if somebody brings up of, hey, what happened? And you're like, what do you mean? Like, you were there. Didn't you see the thing? And they're like, what? What did you see? And they're describing it. And you're like, oh, it's kind of coming back because they're actually helping you process it. That's how all human brains work.
And one of the most important questions you can ask your beta readers is did you like this? And if they say yes, why? And keep drilling them on that question. Why? But why? Because you need to find out what it is that attracted them to the story, pulled them all the way through to the end. That's where your sizzle is. It's that thing that attracted them into the story and kept them going through the whole thing. And do not accept answers like, well, I just like your writing. That's great. Thank you. Thank you. What about the story did you like? Keep drilling in on that, because that's how you'll actually uncover what that is. Because what drove you to write the book may or may not be what drives a reader to read through to the end.
Like for me, and I've looked through and I haven't seen much, so I really don't know the answer in the end about the writer. But so Martha Wells writing Murderbot Diaries, what pulled me through was because this was a emotionally stunted person in a awkward situation with communication problems. To me, at least, it was very autistic appealing. And so what pulled me through was this character constantly going, I hate people. I especially hate communicating with people, but I want to be around them. And that is, the neurodivergent, dog whistle, if there ever was, of I don't know how to communicate with them correctly, so I don't really want to communicate, but I don't want to be far away either. It's lonely being alone. And that's what pulled me through, even though there was so many other aspects. So the tech's fun, the suspense is fun. If you like those old one competent person in an adventure book type story who's going to keep the rest of the group alive, it's a fun story. But for me, it was that neurodivergent. That is what pulled me through the story and made me forgive several plot holes, and wait, why wouldn't they just do this?
I think that's one of the things that made that. Oh, what was that? Like that recent Sandra Bullock movie where she's the writer who gets
The Lost City.
Yeah. One of the things that got people really into that is it made no bones about what it was. It was like, did you like Romancing the Stone? Did you like all of these silly, like, why is this writer being dragged off on this adventure that they really have absolutely no core competency for, but somehow magically survive and solve the mystery? Have we got a movie for you? Like, they knew what they were. They knew the kind of B-movie trash film that they were making that had all of this pastiche for those earlier films in that entire genre, and they just wore it on their sleeve. Like, just and it caused a lot of people to talk about this film. And if that's a genre that you like, you kind of jumped in on it and you were like, oh man, this movie is trash, but you have to watch it. Oh my goodness, when this happens, because it's all about the experience. It's all about, one, like we were talking about earlier, delivering on your promise, but it's about that experience. Was it a fun ride getting to the end? Are you as happy as the rest of us that Daniel Radcliffe is in his I give no F's phase and just taking really fun roles? Maybe that's what you should talk about in that kind of a movie review, because honestly, that's what talked me into watching it is, yeah, Daniel Radcliffe showed up. He really doesn't care anymore. He's just having fun with it. And oh my God, did he have fun with it? I'm like, okay, I want to see that. But that's what you're really trying to do, is sell that experience. Whatever your experience is it sad? Is it going to shatter someone's heart? Are you in there with Mr. Green writing all of the children dying slowly of various diseases that will just shatter you in the end? Be upfront. Tell people there's a market for that. I personally don't understand it, but there's a market. Just be open and upfront. I will devastate you. I will break your heart. At the end of this, you will question existence itself, but it'll be fun on the way there.
Did you feel Flowers in the Attic was a little light and airy? Have I got a story for you?
Okay, that does lead me to, I did promise before to read some of my book review articles in today's episode. So I have the first one pulled up. In fact, it was the first one that was published in a regional magazine. And in fact, the title is called Have I Got a Book for You? Are we ready? Buckle up, story time. Even though I accepted a long time ago that life isn't easy and it's not always fair, sometimes I find my thoughts swamped in sadness and discouragement. I miss you, Falcor. When my thinking starts spiraling down, I know I need to find some hope and inspiration pronto. My favorite type of thought triage are memoirs and autobiographies about people who have lived exciting adventures and endured their roller coaster experiences with all the humor, grace, and wisdom I strive for in myself. Also, it's got to be published in audiobook format because when I'm driving, I want to listen to adventure stories resulting from questionable life choices. I've got too much Doctor Who and college football to watch for me to focus on a memoir when I'm at home with a little free time. When you've tired of reading about yet another failed teen dystopia and have started to question your own life choices, read on because I have just the book for you. Stories I Only Tell My Friends by Rob Lowe. If you loved reading Tiger Beat in the 80s and Henry Kissinger's biography, you're going to revel in the scintillating evening with Rob Lowe. His nostalgia has everything: sexcapades, desert rehab, vanishing teens of Malibu, the entire cast of The Outsiders with a cameo by Patrick Swayze as a songwriting geezer of 30 years old, Kennedy's asking for marriage advice, and behind-the-scenes Hollywood pranks and backstabbings. Guess who makes a special appearance? Is it Pat Benatar? No. It's Cary Grant drinking milk in a bathrobe, sitting on his bed with his teenage daughter and Rob's girlfriend, watching an ABC after-school special starring Rob as a teen baby dad. Life of the Party by Bert Kreischer. If you loved reading LA Confidential and Huckleberry Finn, this train wreck confessional by Van Wilder inspiration Bert Kreischer is for you. This memoir has everything: Russian mobsters, Whitney Houston hanging out in dentist waiting rooms, Maybe Dead Tracy Morgan, a secret movie theater containing Will Smith, an amorous grizzly bear addicted to marshmallows and friskening. You know, it's that thing where you ambush bigoted frat boys wearing their finery and you cover them in Bisquick and then hose them down. Let's Pretend This Never Happened by Jenny Lawson. If you enjoyed reading Little House on the Prairie and Stephen King's The Shining, you're going to savor Let's Pretend This Never Happened from essayist Jenny Lawson. Her life has everything. Under-medicated OCD raccoons, her father's wild turkeys rampaging through her elementary school, inappropriate taxidermy, failed pet sky burials, now with machetes, Stanley the magical talking squirrel, HR training to ask, is this your penis? Rat bastard cats, and The March of the Scorpions. Mississippi Sissy by Kevin Sessoms. If you loved watching The Little Rascals and just finished reading As They Lay Dying by Faulkner, you're going to love this Southern Gothic exposition, Mississippi Sissy by Kevin Sessoms. This book has everything. Felonious peeping, a Clarion Ledger murder, grinder-like KKK hookups, gay covert affairs, long-buried family secrets, interracial childhood BDSM, the homosexual diaspora, and a pickup truck load of sass. Bonus, the audiobooks are all read by the authors who committed these questionable life choices for your listening pleasure as you drive through your SUV/Priusville personal dystopia. Pro tip, borrowing a book from your public library is like going on a date with a sweet-natured stripper. Don't worry if it turns out the book isn't to your liking, it's just happy for the attention and a chance to get out of the house/library/trip club once in a while.
And so we see in that style of review, we've got comp titles and we've got, inciting incidents you may be interested in. Again, it's just sizzle. I mean, truly, how does Little House on the Prairie meet, what was it? The Shining?
Yes. If you enjoyed reading Little House on the Prairie and Stephen King's The Shining,
Truly, how do you combine those two?
If you read her book, you would know exactly what I'm talking about.
I know, I do.
Because I forced Tom to listen to it afterwards. Like, oh my God, you have to listen to it.
There's the real sizzle.
But it does help to have... I'm sorry?
I can just see Laura Ingram Wilder running from like a flood of blood down a picturesque hill into a valley. Just, yeah, I'm here.
That's not that far off from her reality. Anyway.
Yeah, I was gonna say, why does it actually sound not that far off from, like, I could see that scene happening. I mean, probably during, some accident during the pig slaughtering times, but I could still see that scene.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to give a vibe of, like, you're writing this for readers, so you're trying to help the right reader find the right book. We read Little House on the Prairie and Little House in the Big Woods in primary school. Mm-hmm. I don't have a clue what I'm doing when it comes to writing, but I enjoy writing so. Few of us really do, but having fun with it is such an important thing. It is important.
Because if you're having fun, there's a good chance the readers that this is a story for will also enjoy.
Yeah.
And I feel like you can really see that in a lot of especially, it's one of the reasons I've stopped reading a lot of trad books, is you can feel the contractual obligation on a lot of the writers that are involved. That like, oh, I guess I'm not really done yet because it's supposed to be this many pages long. Like you almost feel those words in the narration while you're reading. And it shows. It really shows. It's one of the things that got me reading certain writers who write tie-in books because they're so excited to be writing officially. Basically, they're writing official fan fiction and they're so happy about it. Yes. And they are so thrilled that it's hard not to enjoy their prose because you can feel they're smiling through the keyboard.
Their enthusiasm comes through in their writing.
And if you want to really see that in action, most of the Star Wars tie-in novels. You can really tell the person is just having fun writing this.
Oh yeah.
Several of the Star Trek books, including ones that are just additional stories. Again, you can tell when someone was writing essentially their fanfic and getting it published.
I have a couple friends who write for both franchises, and just the sheer joy of, oh my goodness, I got signed to do another and just like, this is going to be wonderful. I can't wait to read this book. I cannot wait to read this book because it's going to be you sitting there going, okay, and then Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's just going to be, I will be picturing you jumping up and down in your seat telling me the story the whole time, because that's just how you write when you're this happy.
And I mean, like, for me, I got this assignment for this magazine like very last minute. So partly I was having to go by books I'd already read, and that is what I had been listening to lately. And then I wasn't sure how to do book reviews. And so Tom and I talked about it. What is the ultimate review? And at the time, to us, it was Stefan's Nightclub Reviews, which, by the way, all you have to Google is Stefan Nightclub Reviews. And I honestly, like, the first two articles I got are the ones that I used, which was a Vulture article and an Entertainment Weekly article. And I literally just looked at the format as my guide because I was under a deadline and I needed to be able to write this. I want to point out, like, so there's the, this one from Stefan. New York's hottest club is Slash. This place has everything. Glass, steam, bear traps. And just when you think the fun is over, knock, knock, who's there? It's Black George Washington. All that and a party room filled with human bath mats. It's that thing like when little people have dreadlocks and they lay face down on the floor. So I literally reverse engineered this format. And that is how I wrote every one of those reviews. You need to list several interesting hooks, interesting things about that you'll find in the book. And then save the most interesting thing for the last in your list.
That's actually a better one right there, of like a little blurb.
4 teenage girls struggle to navigate life during the American Civil War at a time when women are treated like second-class citizens. Or worse, property.
Of like that definitely is marketing to a specific audience,
right? The feminist struggle.
And if that's what they are interested in, that book will deliver on that.
As I said, you can have multiple reviews and none of them are lies, but they, seem like they were written about different books, because a review is only a small amount of space to give an impression for a book, because really you're just trying to match. You're playing matchmaker, going, hey, can I interest you in spending 8 to 20 hours with this book?
And I don't mean to go after BookTube with this, but I wish that there were more BookTubers that had the freedom in their format to do things that a lot of movie and TV reviewers do when they're talking. There are certain reviewers that, if I'm unsure about a TV show or a movie, I just wait for their review, because it will be so clear if it's for me or not. I will wait for, Andre from Black Nerd Comedy or Amanda the Jedi to do a wonderfully, just her interviews are entertaining in and of themselves, even for movies I will never watch, because you can see right there through the excitement and what parts of the story are brought up and what parts of the story are just read filth, whether or not this is the kind of story that I am going to enjoy, whether or not I agree with them or not. When I watch Bob Chipman do a movie review, there's something that I find so enjoyable about how he just retells the story from either this is little kid Bob watching this and being happy that finally somebody made the damn thing, or whether it's adult Bob being like, wow, I didn't realize I could see the world differently in this way. that personalized experience that I see in a lot of movie reviewers, I wish I saw more in book reviews, because so much of them are just by the numbers. Like, oh, they did this trope, I think they did it well. They did this trope, I think they did it well. And I that's nice, and that can be very helpful to know, but I need to know, like, I doubt any of these books are going to change your life, because it's very rare that you read a book that is like a life-changing experience. But could you not put it down? Why could you not put it down? What about it made you sit back and go, oh my goodness, it's 6 a.m. How is it 6 a.m.? Because those are the books I want to read, are the ones that make me completely lose track of time. And you get that sense of urgency and excitement when you're watching a movie review or a TV show review that you don't often find in book reviews. And it's one of the reasons why when I do a lot of the marketing for my stuff, I tend to look at what does TV and movie do and how can I rip that off. And we've talked about this a lot on these streams in the past, because I want people to have that level of excitement. And it's one of the reasons why I find myself in a lot of fandom circles, because people, when they talk about the new Alien books or what have you, they have feels. And they're right there. And I know immediately.
I know that
book for me.
I know we're supposed to go to break, but I'm going to go ahead and like say something people kind of hate. Get ready. I think the majority of people who read a lot, particularly who like post reviews or make YouTube videos about it, I hear so often that they're just trying to get through the book rather than they're reading out of joy. Yep. It's just another thing to check off. They treat reading like a burden, whether they realize it or not. They are not joyfully celebrating literacy. They are burdened with, oh, I have to get through all these books, rather than, yay, I get to get through all of these books. How lovely is it that I live in a world where there's more books than I have time to read? And that burdensomeness comes through in their book reviews. Rather than, yes, there have been, people are absolutely shocked that I, as a teacher and a librarian, have personally gone through a year or more without reading a single book, because I just hadn't found anything I enjoyed for so long that I just thought, I'm going to take a break and I'm going to do other media and other storytelling, but I'm just not going to really focus on reading for a while, because I got too many duds in a row. Like there was in the mid 2010s, I got like an entire year of duds. Every single book was crap. I did not finish a single book in a 14-month time span, because it was crap. Not because like there was anything wrong with me. It was like I was like, I'm starting to question whether I could evaluate books. Is something wrong? Is there something wrong with me? And I started having friends go through the same books of like, read the first chapter and see if you want to keep reading it. Let me know if it's me. And every time they're like, no, this is just crap. This is just bad. No, this is not interesting. I don't want to read that. And it wasn't me. It was just, no, the publishing industry was absolute crap at the time. I'm not saying it's not better now. So these are still people who are trying to shine turds. They're trying to polish these turds. When it's like, look, if it's a crap book, don't be like, well, I got through it, so I'm just going to like check things off. It's like, if you're like, look, this book brought me no joy, so this is the only review you get. I did not like it. If you know me, then you probably wouldn't like it either. You know, like that kind of thing.
Versus like, I would be curious to hear a book review from CB about Madly Deeply, the Diaries of Alan Rickman, because we know how much CB loves Alan Rickman. So it's like, go on. What was it that, pulled you through the whole story? I mean, pulled you through reading all of it? Like, that would be interesting to hear, because I know you're already going to be enjoying it. Share that joy.
It was a comic book review, but one of the best reviews that got me to read an entire run of a comic that there will probably never be any more of, because it did not take off, was somebody who was just like, I know a lot of crap has come out from DC Comics yet, but I don't understand why nobody's talking about Sideways, this new character that they came up with. And I get it. He looks like knockoff Spider-Man, but that's a visual thing. And that's how it started off. And I'm like, wait, DC tried to do a knockoff Spider-Man? Like, it was enough of a hook. It got me to watch his review, and just the passion that he talked about this character and the new superpowers that they gave him and the way they work and how the story's going. And I'm just like, how did I not even know that this existed? And it got me so excited that I went and read the entire run because I could see his passion. I could see this guy's just love for this character that will probably never show up again because, you know, new characters that don't do well in their first run usually don't come back.
It's just one of these of, I get it of I read the book, so I want it to count. I want to make a video, and that's fine. You could do like you know, like top 5 books I'm meh about. Meh. Just hold them up for us all to see. Go meh. And of like, it wasn't the worst thing I've ever read. It was not the best thing. It was not for me. And you don't have to go into why was it not for you. Like, that's fine. I understand. Nobody wants to dwell on how they're disappointed. I get it, and I understand. But if you still want, you know, as a booktuber, you want content, you can lump them all together and just be like, books I was meh about. There we go. And then bonus, a book I found that I really loved. Or, hey, let's do a classic, something I've read since I was a kid and I have reread, and this is like the 20th time, and I had a great time. Let me talk again about my favorite.
When we used to do reviews on the podcast, our most common review for something was Life's Not Long Enough. Like, we would get requests like, can you talk about this? Can you talk about that? And we would just have a segment on the show, which was Life's Not Long Enough for me to talk about my feelings about that. It's not worth time. And I think more people who do reviews need to have not just a DNF list, but a life's not long enough for me to talk about it. Like, it's not worth, like, I'm not mad about it. I'm not happy about it. Why do you want me to waste hours talking about a thing that's not worth talking about?
Yeah, of like, also, I wish more people would just drop a book within the first 100 pages if they're not having a good time. Like, don't reward bad books. Do not spend your day in misery. You will never get those hours back of reading a book that you did not totally enjoy. If it was not engrossing to you, stop reading it.
And as somebody who lives in the state of misery, I can validate this.
I mean, that's why, like, when I worked at the public library, anytime somebody's like, this is the book I came for, and I'm like, good, now go find several more books just in case. And they're like, oh, you don't think we get? Like, oh, no, I think that you're going to love it. But what if you finish it early and, you know, the library's closed? Go get some more books. But in reality, it was so you have some backups just in case. Just because in case, you never know. Go get some more books. That is what, like, I'd encourage everybody. If don't check out one book, my God. Go at least go get an audiobook, something. They're free. Go get some more books. Because you never know if you're going to have more time to read or you're going to need something because you just couldn't get through the book you came for. It's sad, but it happens. But there's no reason to, like, stay sad. But again, that's part of it of, I would really like to encourage people to review books they enjoy. And, you know, if you do feel the need to, like, give a 1 star, if you feel the need to type up why, just write meh. Or you can write about why it's not for you if you know that. But if you're not sure why it's not for you, just say so. I don't know why this didn't click, but I gave up after 100 pages. For me, one of the biggest reasons why when a book doesn't click for me is it drags. I'm like, I just felt time just stretching out before me. I could not believe so little time had passed. It felt like forever.
Remember, this is the big difference between someone like Arthur Conan Doyle and Bulwer Lytton. Bulwer Lytton sold more books than Doyle did during the same period of time. We don't talk about Bulwer Lytton because his books weren't good. People didn't reread them. You didn't finish a Bulwer Lytton book and go back and like, this is my favorite book of all time. I'm going to read it over and over and over again. It doesn't matter how popular a title is, which I feel is what a lot of book review sites are about, is that popularity contest of everyone's talking about it, so I guess I have to.
I mean,
And the same thing with movie review sites.
And it's where I want to fault, but at the same time, I can understand, now that they're talking about what's actually going on behind the scenes with all the streaming services and these shows when they cancel them. Sure, that has a lot of watch time. A lot of people started watching this, but if they didn't finish the show, especially within, a show, it wasn't that exciting, obviously.
Because there are a lot more Bulwer Lyttons out there than there are Doyles.
Yeah. And I mean, I was sad, but I understand that the stuff I enjoy half the time is not for everyone. I liked, what was it? I think it was Netflix, Daybreak or Daybreakers.
Yeah.
Where, all the adults turn into vampires or zombies or some weird.
Something in between.
Something.
Yeah.
And it's, all these kids and they've got, the principal played by, what's his face? From War Games.
Matthew Broderick
in probably one of his very few villain roles ever. Yeah, not for everyone.
Good review of Daybreaker on the podcast back when it came out. Yeah,
I thought it was really good, but I mean, yeah, it's just not for everyone.
How about we go ahead and take a little 10-minute break?
All righty.
Yeah.
And when we come back, more, plus the next article I wrote for the magazine. And that's more book reviews. And may I recommend that now would be a wonderful time to make sure you have something to drink. Is it snack time? Maybe it's snack time. Or what are you making for dinner? Now's a great time to figure that out. And we'll see you in a few minutes. Beep, beep, beep. Beep, beep, beep. And I'm echoing because you left the door open.
Well, okay then.
Fancy meeting you here.
I'll be there in a minute. I just gotta finish up microwave.
Okay.
I mean,
I may have raided the Halloween candy bowl.
Good job.
I'm not sure why these are called fun size, but they should be at least called mildly enjoyable size.
I think they should be called like minimals. Minimally acceptable size.
Though I have noticed, like, there is a very clear correlation between what is considered fun size candy and the amount of discontent in the country. Like, as the size.
What do you mean versus full size candy bars?
As fun size candy bars have gotten smaller.
Oh, yes.
Like there's a direct proportional relationship to the amount of anger that exists in the country and how tiny our quote unquote fun size candies are.
Yeah, it used to be those little Heath fun size were 2 full bites for me, and now it's like barely more than a bite. Like I can actually almost entirely fit it in. And I have a small mouth, and it's like, well, this is disappointing.
Well, I know that this is more than likely a correlation, not causation moment. Like, I would like a study.
I do think it's more recession based of like cost cutting and everything to keep prices down. But yeah.
See, I'm wondering how if it actually just ties into the late stage capitalism BS that's going on and is actually a trend indicator of how bad we're going to be treated.
Tom was telling me about a video he watched. Let me hold up. Because I've got to get this title just so. Oh, wait, that's not where he put it. All right. It's called How Economists Invented Austerity and Paved the Way to Fascism.
Yeah.
And, yeah. Fascinating. And I mean, like, and she's doing it to promote her book. The Capital Order, how, you know, and the same thing. It's like, but it's essentially an executive synopsis of her book that she did for her book. Which I'm like, yeah, that's what you want. He's like, it's not like a 2 to 4 hour lecture of the entire book. Like, nobody wants that.
Well, I mean, people who are not me, who have functional lives and psyches, don't want that.
Hello, Jules. Okay, so during the break, what I did do was I found 2 of the magazines my articles were in. And that's the next one is, it was the November issue. A Therapeutic Guide to Thanksgiving. So since Tom isn't here, technically Tom is actually here, but he is still in the kitchen. Here is A Therapeutic Guide for Thanksgiving by Gloria. The holidays approach. After your mother emotionally blackmails you into attending this year's Misery Fest, you'll find yourself asking the deep philosophical questions Aristotle and Diogenes wrestled with. Questions like, how am I related to Cousin Derek? Didn't he and his kids fall out of a tree only last week? And exactly how many squirrels does it take to fill Aunt Mabel's legendary squirrel casserole? I know, I've been there. The answers are, through your father's side, yes, because their tails fell off 2 weeks ago, 42 squirrels. Discussing controversial cookbooks is a delightful relief compared to listening to Cousin Derek orate about the state flag, homosexuals, or the lack of appropriate police brutality in 21st century America. For this technique to work, the recipes must be easy, the writing must be witty, and the book must be bursting with gorgeous, sexy, messy food pictures. Thug Kitchen. I have a hypothesis. Whoopi Goldberg and Martha Stewart passionately scissored until they made a book baby and named it Thug Kitchen. Tasty vegan cooking at its most foul-mouthed, bursting forth with food portraits to make your mouth water and then take you out cruising for juicy tomatoes. Descriptions read like you're getting advice in the back of your favorite gritty truck stop diner. Excerpt, quote, peachy almond tapioca. Tapioca might sound like an old lady dessert, but trust them, they aren't wasting their golden years on some Bush League bullshit. This pudding is creamy and perfectly sweet. Now go call Gladys and tell her that shit Ethel said earlier. What to drink while reading? Whiskey or tequila? You don't mess around, and you are here to eat Awesome Town, all of it.
Oh my, I desperately want to read this book now.
I think you all should. You don't have to cook out of it. Every issue of the magazine came with a poster, and I'm trying to keep it. So that's Thug Kitchen, and then the next one is 50 Shades of Chicken. Here we go. Buckle in. This one is by F.L. Fowler, a pen name. Oh, wait, I did not need to be big for this. For any cook who has ever gazed at a gaping wide, whole roasted chicken and thought, I'm going to gobble you up, and you're going to love every minute of it, have I got a cookbook for you. Enticing, scandalous story vignettes combined with luscious chicken recipes that will awaken your cravings for a delicious home-cooked meal. Excerpt, quote, Blades holds me under the faucet. The touch of his hands and the flowing water make my tail convulse deliciously. The tension grows unbearable. I feel precarious, as if I were about to fall for him again. A cluck of longing emerges from deep inside me. Suddenly, we can't help ourselves, and his long-fingered hands are all over me. I want to cook you.
Somebody did the naughties with the chicken.
Oh my, I'm heating from the inside out.
Oh no, it's all from the chicken's perspective.
I noticed.
The entire book is from the chicken's perspective. What to drink while reading? I'd suggest your favorite white wine, but you and I are going to be honest with each other. You'll finish that bottle of Chardonnay before you even get to part 2, falling to pieces. My advice is to jump to the juicy bits and make your favorite vodka cocktail. Since you're a Samantha, it'll be a pitcher of Cosmopolitans. Pro tip. In every small town, there will be one convenience store open on holidays. There you will find people wandering around on the verge of nervous breakdowns. They'll mention how this is the first cigarette they've smoked in so many months or years. But pros know better. Grab a bottle and drive over to an old cemetery to hide out until your family threatens to send the sheriff's department out looking for you. When you get caught, tell them you are remembering Grandpa. Whether he was buried there or not, everyone will forgive you.
Yeah,
that was that article.
That just got the song Dearly Departed by Kathy Marr stuck in my head, which is wrong and should never be food related.
Yes, see, I was published. I know a few people have questioned, how dare. But yes, that was November. And I do also have December here, which I will read after our next break. Yes, oh my.
Somebody had dirty thoughts about a chicken. It was like the chicken likes these dirty thoughts.
Actually, it was written by an entire writing group in Oregon.
Yeah, it was published by Quirk Press.
Oh my. Like,
I do
you
actually
love your chicken, but you really shouldn't love your chickens. I'm just I have so many questions.
That one, let's see. There was...
I feel like I now know what the first documentary I ever do is going to be, and it's going to be hunting down all the people that wrote that book and interviewing them about their process. I have so many questions. So many questions.
How long till you could sleep at night without bad dreams?
So who's the one with the erotic dreams about chickens that got this idea started? Who's the gonzo? I need to know. Who's the gonzo?
Jules says that puts a new spin on Charlie's pickled chicken story.
Right? Like, as I'm listening to this, I've got Dearly Departed going through my head and just watching my grandmother chase around drunk, naked chickens.
I'm not sure anyone's prepared for that one, Maggie, because most Maggie says she read a story from the dresses perspective. Like, most dresses I've ever known were very slutty.
Mm-hmm. They like being shimmied in.
They love being twirled and caressed.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just all kinds of naughty.
Finger the hem. Finger it. Have I written, what did Tom call it? Soft erotica?
I really need to start streaming with Jace again. There's just too much evil inside me.
Here, eat this, it'll tide you
But
over.
anyway, that's the sizzle. And that's my point. Is there's a million different ways to write book reviews and back cover blurbs. And as long as people read it or you read it to them and they're like, oh, yeah, I want that. Take my money now. Then you've done a good job.
And note how all of these examples are.
And none of them tell you
readers.
anything. None of them tell you anything about it. Sorry, Tom. Go on.
Okay. Feels like now I have to go cook dinner. Should I be cooking chicken?
Maybe. I mean, I guess it depends on the kind of thought you two want.
Brian gave me chicken bacon and told me to just be quiet.
Is it gribbon?
It's very good.
Did he give you gribbon?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought. Okay.
But none of these were about the writing. They are not critiques. They are not critical reviews. These are not academic. None of that matters. It's for the readers. It is readers to readers. And that is, again, why we talk about writers really don't need to be reading much of the reviews for Goodreads, let alone do not respond to them, because all that tells you is it reaching the right market?
Mm-hmm. Like, I would read, if there were reviews about something I had written, the only reason I would be reading it is to see what they're talking about, what is standing out that they're excited about, to guide my own marketing and promotion of what are they latching onto and going, everybody, I need you to know about this. Because that will, if I then set up a marketing campaign that includes that, more than likely I'll find even more of the right readers for that story, that book, whatever.
Yeah, that's all those reviews tell you, is who to market, what to market with, and what to avoid. If people really are upset about this part, then don't mention it.
Honestly, if you read a fantasy that has a dragon in it and none of your reviews, book reviews that people have written about your book mention the dragon, or they barely mention the dragon, then don't mention the dragon, because that's not what, your 4 and 5-star reviews are caring about for whatever, even though, yeah, I agree, dragons are cool. But obviously your dragon is not hitting the right way, so go with what is hitting them the right way if they're still giving you 4 and 5-star reviews. Because that's all that matters. Is you're just playing matchmaker, going, I have a story for the right kind of reader. Are you the right kind of reader?
But so we've now heard there's the Stefan method. There is the, I don't know what you call it. The Sunday brunch review is what I think when you're including the, what you should drink this with, what is the full sensation of this?
So the review of This Way was inspired by what I was actually doing with my colleagues at the library. So I would check out these books, these cookbooks, and it would be salacious. It would be sassy, whatever. And when I was ready to return the book to check it back in, before I did, I would literally in the morning before we opened, I would be reading excerpts out to make my coworkers giggle and laugh and howl. You know, and that was so much fun to share it that way with them. And for the most part, none of my coworkers cooked. So number one, they were never going to read these books on their own. They were never going to check them out. They certainly were never going to try to cook out of them. So me reading the fun, ridiculous, absurd excerpts to them was like that, because they enjoyed it, because they weren't going to, this wasn't their kind of book, but yet these are like, look, I think you're going to love this part. I have to read this to you. And they loved it. Now, yes, I realized that reading 50 Shades of Chicken, I was borderline sexually harassing my colleagues. So I asked them is it okay before we open? Can I read you this?
I still can't believe that book exists.
I know. There's a sequel too, I think.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And it's good. I have to tell you,
Did he die in a helicopter crash?
I cooked a bunch of the recipes from 50 Shades of Chicken, and every one of them was great. So it wasn't a gimmick book, even though it really seems like a gimmick book. It actually, the recipes were really good, and all of them were correct. They had obviously been tested. The measurements were correct. Yes, they did blush.
I don't know. I kind of felt like this was CB doing a real life version of the Gru meme, and blushed, right? And blushed, right?
Well, my coworkers knew that I used to write a sex column for my student newspaper, so they knew me. But I did ask first, and it was okay then. And it was before patrons came in. Again, they didn't want that in front of patrons because they already had enough trouble. I don't know why, but down here in South Mississippi, people think that, like, you go to the library to hit on librarians. It's weird. It's very strange. That's a whole another issue.
I have a theory. It could be bunnies. That's all I'm going to say on that one.
So, but that was another style of doing book reviews where essentially you find the juiciest bit or the best bit or the most interesting, it's like a pull quote. And you essentially prepare the reader in the book review, you prepare them for the pull quote by explaining, why does this book stand out? What are you going to get out of it? And also, what does it remind you of? Hence, yes, Whoopi Goldberg and Martha Stewart scissoring a book baby into existence. 50 Shades of Kale. Oh.
But kale is BDSM. Like, you need somebody to just sit there and go, eat it. Eat it. I said eat it. Because, like, I don't know many people that do that.
I do not understand what people are to kale.
Especially the way people are into kale. Like,
yes.
Here's how to make it taste the worst it could possibly taste.
With greens, like collard and turnip greens, there's bacon fat.
No. I figured out. So people who like kale are ones who just really wish there was a way to feed yourself a bottle brush.
Yeah.
And just want that sensation on the inside.
Yeah.
Because kale feels kind of like,
the what is it called? The cryptic caverns or something in the intestine? I can't remember what it's called.
They're not supposed to have those, Glory. Those are bad.
Tickle them. Brush them out. Get the cobwebs. I don't know. I just kale. Because they eat it, all they do is they rub it with salt and that's it. Like they eat it, and I'm like, why so miserable?
Like Maggie's like, I have a friend who
You're making my husband cuss in the next room. It's kind of funny.
I can't quite. It's not quite picking him up.
It's fine. You don't need all of these curse words on your channel right now.
Yeah, because like
you have sent him into a slight rage.
You can curse on YouTube. You just can't curse frequently. Like you can get one F-bomb an hour and you're okay. So I wanted to give another way to do a review, but a fun review where people are like, you gotta look at this review. This is hilarious. Because if they're having a good time reading your review, then more than likely they're going to remember your review and that they will enjoy the book.
And if you find this inspiring, and if you find this inspiring, you can also do this for your own book blurb. If you get this style, if it appeals to you, maybe try it for the blurb. Down to the, if this book goes well with Chardonnay, or a dry zin,
or a picture of Cosmos.
I think I've got like 3 books.
Thank you for laughing at my writing. That was the point, and it makes me feel good to know that we got the desired reaction.
I do feel like I need to add a picture of Cosmo to at least a couple of the books that I have out.
I think it's perfectly acceptable to write what goes well with this book, whether we're talking about a libation or we're talking about a snack. I absolutely think books and food and drinks go together, and not just alcoholic drinks. Like, this goes well with a French lavender tea, like whatever.
What area is best to read it in?
Book nooks.
Because Shine
Is this
Like
an
Thunder
outdoor
needs to
fall?
be read with your favorite small chocolate, bite-sized chocolates.
Mm-hmm. Like, that is a perfectly valid book review or book blurb, is to say, what does this story go well with? Whether we're talking about oatmeal or we're talking about chocolates or whatever. Or like, every time I read this book, I want to sit along the French Riviera.
And also, like, what season it goes with, because like, there's a reason why we watch Christmas movies around Christmas, and it's because we're already in that environment. Or it's October, time for all the Halloween, or November, Thanksgiving. If we want to, we're already in that environment. We want to read stories that go with it. Let them know some odd stuff that kind of goes with it. If it's a timely piece, then talk about that time. It's right there with genre. People want to know what genres you're going to be writing about.
And I have to say, the best marketing thing that I ever did was when I got frustrated with, like, be better than me, kids. I got frustrated with the reviews of my book, The Chain, and started the book blurb on Amazon with, "This book is not a romance." I just added that to the first line of the book of the book blurb because it's not a romance, and people would get to the end and be confused why it didn't end like a romance should. And like, because it's not a romance. That's why it doesn't end the way you think a romance should, because he's not going to marry the guy who tried to kill him. Like, that's not. No, I'm not writing that kind of YA fiction. Thank you.
You mean the part where people get upset about Romeo and Juliet? It's like, it's called a tragedy. They said that from the beginning. This is not a romance or a comedy. It's a tragedy.
Yeah, romances in Shakespeare's time used to be called comedies. It's not a comedy.
But the funny thing is, by adding that, what happened was, before Amazon like nuked the book page, because people started fighting. Like, I was in there with them, but people started fighting in the reviews. It was a great time to be had by all, over whether or not the book was a romance or not.
Oh no!
Like, people like rage read the book to prove me wrong, and were like quoting passages from it to prove that I had no idea what I was doing. So, stirring up that little bit of controversy by simply declaring my not a romance book is not a romance. That book sold over 2,000 copies. So,
I mean, isn't that a rule of the internet?
Yeah.
You state a falsehood or something, and that so people can jump in and prove you wrong or something like. What is it? I don't remember it.
But I speak a truth.
The joke is the Peter principle is, if you incorrectly state something on the internet, someone will show up to correct you. And the joke being, it's not the Peter principle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Peter principle is something different.
Yeah, that's about management and promotions.
That's how I've lived my life. Failing upwards constantly.
But it does work. People really will do this just to, say you're wrong.
Yeah.
But that one declarative sentence, like, the book was selling fine before I added that to the blurb at the time. And just adding this very declarative, like, the opening sentence, like, I didn't flower it up. It just, the opening sentence of the book blurb on Amazon was, this book is not a romance. I think I've prettied it since, I don't know, it's been a while since I've looked at that one. But that simple declarative sentence, I felt like people were like, I see your glove hitting my face, sir. And it worked. And then to make things even more fun, Amazon reclassified the book as a LGBTQ romance without asking me first. So like they knew what was going on. They conspired against me to sell some books.
Right there with Netflix and Dahmer. But we know you will watch this out of rage. So yeah. I mean, so that actually kind of brings up something we haven't mentioned yet. Well, not directly. And that is another aspect of blurbs and reviews and what makes people read or really enjoy entertainment is the feels is the real reason they're doing this. It's not about factuality. It's not about information. It's emotions. So you speak to people's emotions when you write reviews and blurbs. You do not write about facts. You do not write about what happens. You write about what's going to make somebody feel something that they need to respond to.
The most quoted, like if I were to do a review of the TV show for Interview with the Vampire, my opening line would be, quote, "But did you eat the baby?" Because this one line that comes about halfway through episode 2 is everything that the show is. Because you'll be right in the middle of a story and he just decides to segue away into something else. And you're like, but wait, what? Did you eat the baby? Because that is the heart of that story. It's the feels, the anticipation. It's why Andor is actually getting a lot of great reviews. They actually took the time for an entire episode that's nothing but anticipation and just sitting there waiting. And I love how many people I have watched reviews of that it's like, I sat on the edge of my seat for nothing to happen and it was wonderful. Because we want that experience. We just want that experience. It's not like payoffs do need to happen. But if a story is all payoffs and no setup, no one's going to care. It's, again, fulfilling that promise that you're making. And watching people having feelings is such a beautiful thing.
Like that was what kept Doctor Who going in the reboot era for so long. Was Davies started it, but Moffat was the one who really figured out that as long as you keep putting in little potential story ideas, little hooks that may or may not affect things, then you can have those show up in later stories and pay off. It may have nothing to do with the main story, but you stay there because there will be payoffs, but you're now still anticipating something else. And as long as you can keep them both going at the same time, your patrons, your readers, your viewers will be happy. Because they need something to anticipate, but you also still need to pay off and tell them why, what was the reason for this. But you don't have to, you do not have to wait for one to begin the next. Like that was the thing that Moffat really showed. And the same thing with Sherlock and everything else of you can set up multiple hooks before you start having payoffs. And even while you're having payoffs, you can still set up new hooks. And that's what these blurbs are, is they are multiple hooks that you're wondering what's the payoff.
And this is what Kevin Feige has also just been a master at doing is, in retrospect, it looks like they planned out a 10-year run of movies, which they did not. They set up a whole bunch of possible stories that they could tell that when they came back and went, remember when we said this? Remember when this got hinted at? And suddenly it feels, which is, again, the most important thing, like it was planned from the beginning. Because all that matters is that you're conveying that emotion. It's one of the reasons why I tend to think of my stories when I'm in editing mode like more akin to a song. Like, is it hitting the tone? Is it hitting the note that I'm looking for? And that's the really tricky thing with the blurb, is you're trying to get that catchy hook that gets into somebody's brain that they continue humming until they buy the book. What is that catchy thing that's in your story that gives somebody the feels? What is that one thing that really drives people to want to be a part of this? It's why Bridgerton, people still talk about it, even though I don't know anybody who actually enjoys it. But the hook, the idea behind Bridgerton as a series is such an attractive idea. People are still, people watch through season 2 and continue talking about it. Though I don't really know people that really enjoyed season 1 or 2. Because that promise of, well, maybe this is the season, like, actually deliver, don't be like them. But it's that desire for, like, what you have promised me, if you can give that to me, I will be so happy. And so they keep promising, like, yeah, but this is the season we really do it. And that's, again, what Sherlock did. Like, this is the season where you're going to find out that Sherlock and John are finally getting together.
I just love throughout Sherlock all the little payoffs / hooks of the of what's her name, who owns the apartments.
Oh yeah.
And her background.
Yes.
Because every time they reveal a little bit more about her background is truly a, wait, what? And there's still more you don't know. Like, I loved everything about her. Like, you know, she is right there with the guy at the DMV in Zootopia.
Yeah.
Or you know, sort of the equivalent in Sing, you know, the secretary assistant.
Mm-hmm.
Of, again, she too has this other life we only know little bits about. It's always go on. You don't have to pay off the big hooks yet. You can pay off little ones that are just as curious.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the Trixie thing. I just did a podcast episode that'll be coming out later this week about adaptation. And when you think about people not understanding the hooks in their own story, I spend quite some time in there talking about one of my favorite metal bands that every song that they have done is inspired by J.R.R. Tolkien. Every single song. And they are the loudest, most violent death metal you've ever heard in your life. But when you look at the words and you listen to what they're actually singing about, oh God, this song's about Galadriel. Yeah. Yeah, you know, I never really thought about her that way, but you're not wrong, because that feeling is contained in what they're doing. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, look up Khazad-dûm by Battle Lore and just be astounded that this thing exists and why we have to love the Scandinavian countries. Because there's a band for everyone. But, you know, finding ways to tell that story, yes, that understated kind of Peter Jackson helicopter shot may be the hook to get your story in at a certain point. But honestly, while I'm enjoying Rings of Power, I would have also liked them to do a more Battle Lore inspired, like, here's all the really obnoxious death metal version of this where we're just going to go all in and just war, like, because they've done that too. If you've ever seen the Shadow of Doom games, what were they called? It was the Shadow of something that they did.
Shadow of Mordor. Yeah,
Shadow of Mordor games that they did. That's the heavy metal Tolkien games, where they're telling the exact same story that you saw in the epic sweeping tale that Peter Jackson gave us on the screen. But now this is the, like, no, we're going to be down in the trenches as they're like sweeping out and taking over everything, fighting on the ground, blood and gore version of it.
If you know your history stuff at all, like, it's the Gary Gygax version of Lord of the Rings.
Yes, very much. And knowing which of those two stories you wrote, or which of those two stories is going to resonate with people. Because one of the things that I have noticed, like for Lord of the Rings, for example, when I talk to people about it, is how much poetry is in the book. Like, you can't go more than 3 pages without somebody singing a song or reciting a poem. Like, Tolkien loved his poetry, and whether you love his poetry or not, that's a personal taste thing on your part. But he loved his poetry, and it's all in there. And watching people sit back and go, oh, wait, there's a lot of poems in this? Yeah.
And they're meant to be sung.
And they're meant to be sung. They all are to various British folk tunes. That if you're familiar with British folk music, you'll start reading aloud and find yourself singing because you know what tune he had in his head when he was writing that song down. And maybe that's your hook. Are you doing little things like that? Because that gets a very rabid audience. I've known people my entire life that get together at conventions and just sing Tolkien songs together. Because that's what kept the fan base around and sells books. Like, he's not actively trying to sell books, but they're selling books for him.
Me trying to sigh of all the ways to see Tom Bombadil exist.
Oh, Tom Bombadil, the character that they will never do in a movie, right? Because you can't. He's too random of a character. He's either going to become the Joker or whatever that was in that Peter Jackson tried. Just whatever. There's a reason that's a deleted scene.
Yep.
Even he saw it and went, but why though?
But why?
And this is from the guy who made the Hobbit movies and went, it's fine. So, if you've not seen these scenes.
What did you say, Tom?
I was saying, we can extend this further.
But yeah, find those little unique hooks that you have that really get people excited.
If you're not sure what they are, ask people.
Always ask.
Just ask. Even though, like, people, and readers may say, don't you know you're the writer? Like, but what stands out to you?
Hence, I can hear the exasperation in Maggie's voice.
Yes.
Just reading.
Maggie, I'm in the same boat with you. Don't worry.
Oh yeah, for Maggie as the writer, them being cat people is not that much. It's more about them being shifters and aliens, all this. But your audience is going to be, but cat people, I'm going to pet them.
Yep.
I just need a human-sized kitty to pet.
Give me your tail.
Because my science fiction is all about, I just want some wuxia in space, y'all. Like, that's all I care about. That's all I want. That's not what sells the books. I am the only one that cares about that. I know this and must ask lots of probing questions of, oh, it's the space vampires. Okay, got it. Talk up the space vampires.
Yeah, I think that's something a lot of people after they get out of school kind of forget is back in the day when, you were talking with your friends about stories you read, or even your class was talking about a book they read. If you thought about it, you notice, like, for me, an easy one that most people still, I think, are doing in school is Charlotte's Web. And you would be surprised how many different kinds of reviews you can hear about Charlotte's Web, how many different perspectives that people latch onto in that story.
Yeah.
Because, like, most people go, oh, well, Wilbur's the main character. It's like, from one point of view, Wilbur is, but from other people, it's Sarah, Clara,
Charlotte.
No, the girl.
Oh yeah,
the one who ostensibly is owning Wilbur.
Yeah.
Now that you said it, I don't remember, but like 2 days ago, I knew.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But I've known of some people that's actually what they latched onto. That was what was important, was that relationship and how she kept him alive.
It depends on the age when they first read it. Like third graders, they always talk about the talking animals. Like they just love that all the animals talk. This is just the best thing since sliced bread. If the first time they read it so that's third grade. If the first time they read it is more like fifth grade, then they start talking about like the relationships, specifically Wilbur and Charlotte's and Wilbur and the girl. as well. And then if they don't read Charlotte's Web till middle school, they talk about Henry Fussy a lot and the romance, the budding romance going on. It is like, oh, puberty started. Okay.
But I mean, but it shows you like it's a simple story. Like it's not a long story even, but so many different perspectives. So Maggie responded, and I do not want to give my response on air of who I think this will target.
Are you trying to tempt Maggie to like tell her children to get off the Wi-Fi so she can join us?
No, more of the I don't want to say the line of who this is a very good perspective on the story of this will, but who I think this appeals to is not a market I want to talk about. Because the people I know of, namely men, who talk about space samurais
are very
and homicidal Amazons is
very insulated.
Yes, I like that. Insular.
An insular group of people.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, they will. I'm sure will probably buy your story if you blurb it that way. I think there's a decent amount of market for you to that crowd. I just, would be careful about going to book signings.
Yeah.
Because the quickest way to understand the death of the author is trying to sell your own book.
God.
And that's when you realize your perspective
preach
means
it.
nothing.
I will just sing over here, hallelujah.
Your perspective means nothing to any of these people at all, unless they're that one guy who did that video recently on how George Lucas is always right, because I don't understand what he was talking about, because he then went on to talk about how bad the prequels were. And I'm just like, but George Lucas made the prequels, and if he's always right, then you have to be wrong. Like, anyway. But yeah, if you don't understand what the phrase death of the author means, once you publish your first book and start seeing what it has meant to other people, or when you do beta readers and ask them, so what was this book about to you? Can you give me a brief summary, like a 2-3 sentence summary of the book you just read? And you're sitting back going, I didn't write that. Where did this come from? Where are you getting these ideas? And then, of course, that one character that always everyone renames them. You don't know why they've renamed them, but the name that they renamed it to has a personal resonance to them.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just like, but they're like a D character that just shows up in one scene in the book, and you're like making them into the hero who's there through the whole thing. So you read the whole book and you just remember one scene? Yeah.
It's a minor scene. It's always a minor scene.
It makes me give up the will to live. Like, I just every time.
I mean, Tolkien definitely felt this.
Mm-hmm.
The only people that wanted to talk to Tolkien about Lord of the Rings were people Tolkien didn't want to talk to.
Yep.
And was always like, wait, what are they saying about Mr. What?
It was actually the reason why I pulled back from writing thrillers. Was because I saw the people who were really into like the little vignettes I'd written. My mother would distribute around Ole Miss. She worked at Ole Miss at the time, and she would distribute to people like, here, I've made you a copy. And this was like right before email. So she'd literally fax it to people's offices. Here's Gloria's written another scene. And the people this appealed to, I did not want to be around. And so that was why at 15, 16, 17, I just stopped writing thrillers. Because I just did not want to hang around with these creeps and weirdos. Like, these are not good kind of people. I'm sure they all wear MAGA hats now. And I just was like, ooh, no.
It's something I've been thinking about a lot, because I'm doing I'm getting ready to publish more in one of my series, and I wrote it for a queer audience, and I know from firsthand, I have been to conventions and met my readers' experiences. It is housewives. Housewives is the actual target market of those books. They're the ones that just show up in droves that are buying the paperback and the limited edition hardcover and asking me all of the questions about everybody's private lives. Like, that's the actual target market of that book. So do I just cater to them and give in? Or do I will that ruin the experience? Do I have to keep writing for the fictional queer audience that I want to read the books and just know who will be there next time I do a book signing?
Well, that one kind of gets more to one of the difficulties in trade pub, and why everyone talks about the do not write to market, is because often our concept of the market is not correct.
Mm-hmm.
Of which characters different kinds of people will see themselves in is often not what you're going to think, because you're not inside their head. We all have, a rich life. One of the truest statements I've ever heard about whether a villain is well written or poorly written is, essentially the superhero villain question of no villain in reality ever thinks of themselves as the villain. Everyone is the hero. Nobody is truly I'm just out here to do malicious. They're trying to help something, whether it's themselves or others like them. Hence, no one ever names their group the League of Evil. Unless, it's because that's what they are, unless it's one of those, ironic, because everyone already calls us that, we will take it on and show them type.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say before we go off to the bio break, there is an untapped market of housewives and lesbians that has a weird Venn diagram overlap that I found, that I can just share a copy of the book with you and see if you can tap this market too. They're looking for a specific kind of fiction.
Well, they are, repressed. They don't get a chance at power, versus at queer, there is a chance.
It's a very interesting world. You have no idea what you're writing until readers get their hands on it.
True. That's true.
Absolutely no idea.
Well, when we come back, I will read my December article. It's a bunch of Christmas movie reviews. It's sass. And we will talk more about also writing back cover blurbs. Honestly, if you've mastered writing book reviews, back cover blurbs are really not that hard. They're, if anything, sort of like it's downhill. It's easy. It's easy peasy. So we will talk about tips and tricks for back cover blurbs. And see y'all in just a few minutes. Me, 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 me. Me, 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 me. Me, me, me. Welcome back. Not everybody's little breaky break go.
I was watching David Pakman talking about how he got banned from TikTok for no reason, which I can totally believe because that seems to be the trend right now. Free David cutting. We need a good Save Ferris hashtag for that.
Yes. Ah, here it is. Okay. Found it. Yes, I was clicking like on all the.
You don't want to watch the thing.
Okay. Another article from the archives. Merry effing Christmas. No book reviews for Christmas. Reading is a peaceful and quiet activity. Your Christmas is not. Watch some movies and drown out the sound of arguing relatives and farts ruining your happy holidays. It's a wonderful life. George, stop drinking so much. Your lying, bitter side is troubling Angel Clarence. By compassion, Mr. Potter is looking better every hour. The Santa Claus. Behold, a marvelous Christmas miracle. A divorced man worth more than the space he takes up on the couch. A truly modern parable. Has anyone realized those reindeer knocked off the previous Santa, Sopranos style? The Hogfather. When Santa Claus is assassinated, the Grim Reaper takes over his delivery route. Meanwhile, Death's granddaughter saves the day like a boss. Scrooged. Stapling tiny antlers onto mice is the least of Bill Murray's problems on Christmas Eve. Watch out for Bobcat Goldthwait. He's armed, drunk, and his psychotic break has developed an Elmer Fudd's speech impediment. The Muppet Christmas Carol. You'll enjoy this retelling of Dickens' classic, but the singing fruit and streetwise rat may cause you to rethink your sobriety.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. Doctor Who. Every year, random aliens try to ruin Christmas, and the Doctor finds a way to undoom us muggles. It's really a show about triumph over haters with a snarky time machine. Gremlins. Have a merry, murderous Christmas, the foretelling of China's real plan to take over America with irresistible little Furbies. Yippee-ki-yay, let's go nuke some gremlins. Home Alone. A delicious tale of white privilege and a failed social services department in the Chicago suburbs. Hollywood's assertion that it's not just the African-American community dealing with abandonment at Christmas time. Polar Express. Teaching children a portal to Santa Claus will open if they simply wait outside on Christmas Eve until the hypothermia and delusions have set in. It worked for the little MASH girl.
I mean, you have to know that they're going to hell in that movie because of all the dead eyes. Like, everyone is so soulless. You have to know that they're going to the bad place.
No. Love Actually. The Prime Minister loves you and walks heaven and earth to find you, but your family will still call you Plumpy. Arthur Christmas. One of Santa's sons is a real jerk. From now on, we're calling him Chet. Also, how much meth are those elves doing? The sequel should be called Breaking Bad North Pole.
You're not wrong.
Trading places. Getting revenge on the 1% while becoming filthy rich in the process is the new American dream. There's no doubt young Jamie Lee Curtis and her breasts are unconcerned about your bourgeois clothing compulsions. Merry Christmas. Bonus. To find out what probably happened 10 years later to the Kevin McAllister character from Home Alone, check out the movie Party Monster. Pro tip, if your family has driven you to the brink of tears or worse, park your car in the back lot of any hospital. Cry and scream all you want inside your car. No one will bother you. Security guards at hospitals know how bad news happens every day there. So again, y'all are probably familiar with most of those movies. I did not. tell you anything important about the movie.
Nope.
It's about the sizzle. And you really don't have to say much because you're just trying to like, hey, go watch it. Prepare yourself in this way.
I have always wanted a prequel to the Santa Claus because I really want to know, like, what did the old Santa do
To get knocked off by the deer. Like, did he spank the deer? Did he talk bad about him? Was he rude?
I don't buy that he just slipped and fell. Because he's got that hand, like, reaching out, like, help me. Like, you just expect him to be like, Rosebud. Like, it's just...
People don't seem to realize those deer knocked off Santa. Like, oh, no, aren't they so cute and sweet? Like, no, those deer are murderous.
The hot chocolate.
Yeah. They had a lurid affair.
Like, why nobody talking about this?
We were picking up the old man. It was actually a coup, but failed. Fell in love with the next Santa. That's just gonna tell you.
Though they are doing the passing of the torch because nobody cares about Tim Allen anymore. So that's the movie this year. The Santa Clauses.
Great. That would be better because I cannot stand Tim Allen. He is so everything wrong with the last 30 years.
I do feel, though, that the best role he ever had was in Galaxy Quest, where he played himself.
Yeah. That was very accurate. And I agree, Comet is evil. And you can tell because that is a very creepy puppet.
I feel like Comet should be a guest star on The Cult of Chucky. Like, I don't think anybody would blink an eye if Comet showed up.
If I found out that Comet was hanging out from the Leprechaun in the Hood, I would not blink twice.
You're not wrong.
I mean, there's the crossover that would be more successful than anyone realizes.
Incredibly loud, good lord.
The Santa Closet. He's fat,
Oh, okay. I guess that's the queer Christmas story after, right? The Santa Closet.
Yeah.
Got it.
Is he going in or coming out?
Yeah.
Apparently coming out.
Coming out. Hello, I'm fabulous, and I brought gifts for all the little queer.
I mean, think about it. He is the planet's gay uncle. With very few exceptions and select stories that try to heteronormalize him. He has no children. He lives at the North Pole with his fruit fly, who makes him all the fabulous clothes. And, you know, he's just like, they're showing up with toys going, I don't have kids of my own, so I'm going to spoil yours so that they don't like you anymore. It's the classic gay uncle trope.
You're not wrong.
All he asks is for a little bit of milk and cookies because, let's face it, why do queer households have a hard time getting cookies in them? Not speaking from experience.
That was
Also, it would better explain Krampus.
That's a divorce that we're just not ready to talk about yet because, you know, Santa just wasn't fine when he found out that his boyfriend was a furry. Like, that was just a step too far for the relationship. Oh, God, this book's writing itself.
How much more trashy can you get?
Oh, you don't want to know what my floor is.
They're talking to him about the Santa Claus. He goes, don't worry, I got that covered. Winks at Bernard. Bernard blushes. And he goes, everybody get back to work.
It does.
But
Might
yeah,
know what my nano project is.
Oh, God. Just in time for Christmas.
Just in time for Christmas. I'm not editing it because it's not worth it. Here you go, guys. Here, just enjoy the Santa Closet.
Everyone's gay uncle and your gay uncle's ex trying to ruin your gay uncle's fun.
That feels so right, though, now that you say it out loud. Like, Charlie, I just need you to go ahead and take what little money I have and just drop off that little nugget of fun for me to read on Christmas Eve. Let's see. Jenna says, and here I am wondering how this transposes into the Santa of the Guardians ilk. Are you, let's see, Maggie says, are you saying Grandma was run over by a reindeer who was cheating on Santa?
I mean,
If the shoe fits, honey.
and I'm sorry.
Like, have you ever met elderly people? They are
Ruthless.
they're sluts.
That too.
You're both right.
Ruthless sluts.
And I'm just saying, if you did not think that Santa had finally gotten over his furry problem with the way that he talks to the Easter Bunny in the Guardians franchise, seriously? Like, he and that bunny.
And actually, Comet would make more sense with, you know, that sort of Santa, because we all know those elderly people with their pets that are like, no, he's mine. You can't have him. Don't come near. I will
Maybe
bite your face
Comet
off.
knocked off Santa because Comet was mad about what happened to Grandma who got run over. Like, that was Comet's favorite. I don't know. I just know that apparently it's a telenovela at every assisted living home ever. Carrie, yes, you did come in on an interesting conversation, Carrie. I just read one of my articles, and it was the Christmas one where I reviewed all these Christmas movies. You know, so people knew something to watch to survive the holidays. And that one was published December 2015. If you kind of get that mood, you know, December 2015. It was no, we're not reading.
It was a dark time.
It was a very dark time. Was Grandma cheating with Santa and Mrs. Claus? I mean, like, there are so many different lights you could shine here, and I need you all to write this. And then just be sure to send me the links when you're done, because I need to read this. This is what I want to read for Christmas Eve. I want to read Santa telenovelas. Maybe it's because Grandma refused to let them have the crack level carrot. She grabs it up. Oh no. Oh no. Oh dear. So now it's like Narco?
Grandma Breaking Bad.
It's Breaking Bad, North Pole. Oh no.
I didn't just create a plotter file for the Santa Closet. That is not what happened. That's not why I've been very quiet for a little while. I've totally not been jotting down ideas for this terrible, terrible, terrible travesty of a thing that I know my luck. This will be the thing I will be remembered for. This is the thing that will go viral and that I will finally have some taste of fame for and never live down.
I feel like this is the potential
But if
story.
it's the thing that gets us to Disney, Charlie, it's worth it.
True.
I feel like, though, this is the story that is sort of what everyone was hoping when they initially heard horror thriller Winnie the Pooh. Of, you know, ruin the childhood, but ruin it in a fun way.
Yes. Just, it's like Sopranos and Breaking Bad and all of anything. And Arthur Christmas just for fun.
Yeah. I mean, it's a travesty, but it's a fun the whole
Yeah.
way.
Like, let's have a good time.
That's all anyone cares about for stories.
Yeah.
I apologize already that I may have written down the phrase Big Daddy Christmas.
There we go. This is the movie I need to get made.
Oh, here's another potential.
Sort of tempted to write a Sopranos Home Alone across. Oh my God, do it! Yes. Family is home. See you later. Bye, Maggie.
But yeah, like, to me,
Backcover Blurbs.
that's always been the coaching, one of the coaching phrases I have used with Glory whenever she's writing. It's like, I can't write anymore. You know, it's like, the secret to writing any story is you must find a story whose concept makes you cackle.
Yeah, or the giggle point, or the oh no, that's too terrible.
But what happened next?
You know, like it's this feeling, this naughty, but not like capital N, you know, DC crimes. Just like lowercase n, like where you just are, you know, you're so gleeful, like a naughty little kid, like I'm up to mischief. That kind of vibe when writing. If you are able to harness that, more than likely your readers will also feel that when they're reading what you've written, or at least the right readers will feel it versus no readers feeling it, and that's just tragic. So you're going to have a good time writing it if you are like, you're going to have a good time. And then the bonus will be, and also other people had a good time reading it. Of like, you, like if you're only able to write as a hobby, you know, after work, on the weekends, whenever, then you look forward to as soon as you get home. Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait. Like when you're that excited every day for months to do this, that kind of joy is going to come through. Because that's what other people want. They want to go on a wonderful, bizarre, terrible, fantastic adventure with you.
About writing is it doesn't leave a criminal record.
I have no idea what Brian's saying.
He said the great thing about writing is it doesn't leave a criminal record.
Most.
I mean, they did just recently rule within the last year, wasn't it, that you cannot use writing in a court case, even if you wrote about doing exactly what you're accused of doing.
Yep. Just in the last couple months, actually. So, okay. So backcover blurbs, there is a slight difference versus book reviews. So with backcover blurbs, in your backcover blurb, you are going to need to introduce the character that the reader is going to spend time with. So, you know, usually your protagonist or your multiple protagonists if it's like an ensemble. And there needs to be this compelling conflict or some reason why this person, the reader, wants to pick up the story and actually spend time. So it's usually because there's a quest. There's something that they need. It could be her cheated husband, and now she's got to go out and find her groove. It could be that the village has all the children are sick, and this one teenager is the only one available. She's got to go find the herb, the dragon, whatever. Or, I don't know. It could be anything. It's like, you know, hobbits in space. And they have to find their shire. I don't know. But something that's compelling. That it's like, yeah, I want to go on that adventure. I want to go spend time with this character. So that's all the back cover blurb needs. When you do this, usually it's a good rule of thumb, if you can raise 1 to 2 questions. Will they succeed at this daunting quest? And also subplot question. Will Santa find a new love who's not like riding goats and terrorizing children?
Maybe.
Maybe.
We make no promises. I hear you giggling, and I am looking through what you put in the private chat. I hear you wheezing at me. I'm just nutty.
Oh, it's going to be a very queer Christmas, y'all.
God. I can just imagine the actor in the Krampus suit right now. I swear to God, if you don't take my money, I'm going to call you all sorts of ugly names once we get off of this show.
Although I have to admit, reading that pitch, my first thought is this a rom-com?
That's what I'm saying. Like they need to film it in Vancouver. You know, over summer when they film all the Christmas rom-coms. This is
Mhm.
like, but like, think of all the special effects makeup.
Did I decide to call Santa Claus Nico? Yes, I did.
I'll
Of
take
course
it.
I did.
Don't take it. So yeah, you're not giving. Okay, CB says, but the tricky thing about back cover blurbs is that you don't want to give away too much, and you're not, because you're saying who is the main character or the character you're going to spend time with, because readers want to know who they're going to spend time with. So usually it's one sentence to sort of describe in a minimal way, but still compelling way, the main character. And then what is the quest? Will they succeed? What is the subplot quest or the subplot question? Will they succeed? And that's pretty much it. And if you can Mad Lib in a couple hook words, like spaceship or dragon, unicorn,
Sparkle.
romance on the beach, whatever, like, because all of these things are like essentially tags that readers of that appropriate genre may be interested in. Like if it's a romance about how she went to the beach and found a man and got her groove back, you're going to definitely want to mention the beach, because that is a very popular setting for romances. If it's a fantasy novel, you definitely want to mention any fantastical creatures, like, and what does a unicorn have anything to do with this quest? Like, you can literally just put in that question in the back cover blurb. If we're talking about a sci-fi, again, will anybody find this hobbit who has stowed away on the spaceship? Like, literally, spaceship is a tag word. So ideally in your back cover blurb, you would fit in a couple of these tags and you'd Mad Lib them in. To be perfectly honest, what I have found tends to work the best, at least to start with. You can always edit and refine and polish later. But the way the TV show Soap used to do their like listing of what will happen next week. Tune in next week when this will find the answer to what will Jessica do with her new dictator boyfriend, and will Chester get over her and marry his daughter's best friend, and so on. You can use these very loaded questions in there. One of the ways, if you just feel like it's a little too blatant, it just is maybe a little clunky, is if you reword your questions from the perspective of your main character. As she wonders, can she succeed and find the dragon with the special plant? And also, what does a unicorn have anything to do with it? Why won't it go away and stop following her? I don't know. Why won't it go away and stop following her? But now I'm curious. Good life choices.
So Soap is currently streaming on Tubi TV. And if you are not familiar with the like, oh my goodness, you're not nature of, like, you don't have to watch the whole episodes. They're funny, but just watch the hooks at the end, because they did the most ridiculous next time ons.
However, they answer every single question in the next episode. Any
even
question
the most
they raise,
ridiculous ones.
huh?
Even the most ridiculous ones.
Oh yeah, like the whole alien thing.
Yes.
Or is her baby floating around when she's not in the room? Like, they actually answer these questions. I mean, that show got bonkers.
Oh, so crazy.
So bonkers. But even if you just watch one end credit on one episode of Soap, and you can honestly just randomly pick any of them, like, just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, and know that whatever questions that voiceover raises, the next episode, they are going to answer it. So if you think about it, the questions are bonkers, but also the questions are actually rather narrow, so that it's easy to answer it without giving away the entire plot arc.
And they do it well every episode. Also, it may happen to you may also be able to find it over here on YouTube as well.
It probably is. I looked up on one of those apps, so like, where is it streaming? Because I was curious if it was anywhere.
Oh,
But
believe
yeah,
me,
like-
once you do it, then, you know, YouTube's like, ha ha.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
that's going to be nothing but my recommendations for the next, like, I'm going to have to watch that Matt Baum special on it again. Oh,
But
don't
like
worry.
I just there were a few things that Soap did really well. And one of them is the hooks at the end of every episode to get you to tune into the next episode. I mean, it's honestly a masterclass. And the other thing they did very well is being able to combine drama with comedy and it not break the tension. Do you know how hard it is to keep attention even when you're doing comedy? It's a fine line. And Soap actually did it incredibly well. Like, honestly, Soap was very controversial when it came out in the entire 4 or 5 years it aired. But afterwards, people really started, only afterwards did people really start to realize how well done it was. So I just bring it up because it is a masterclass. I've watched the whole series now. I mean, as a kid, I had seen like a couple, like I'd seen episodes, but never in order. And I didn't really understand everything that was going on for a variety of reasons, including I was a child.
And honestly, if you can
A lot
watch
of
that
adult
show,
jokes in there.
and
What?
honestly, if you can watch that show and understand everything that's going on, you may need to see a psychiatrist. Because when we say it gets crazy, it gets, there are aliens, there are demons, there's like everything that could happen happens at some point in this show.
Also, they show very well how little you actually have to show to still deliver emotionally for the audience. So it really is a masterclass on how that you can have conflict without having proper villains. And that you can keep the tension going while also having the full range of emotions. It's very well done. I understand that not everybody's into these sort of extreme kitchen sink dramas. I get that. I get that it's not everybody's vibe. But like, there's a few things that there's pretty much nobody who does it better, at least not in the English speaking world. So that's why I mention it, of just like really wonderful examples of how to take how they word the end of every episode of, or any episode of Soap, and use that to inspire your back cover blurb. Of you're just trying to give them a sizzle so they will pick up and get into the story. Now, what that really means is that you need to have a story that continues to hook the reader every couple pages. And when you raise questions, at some point you're going to need to pay them off. And if it's quite a long time before you do the payoff, you're going to need to essentially mention that every couple chapters that you're getting there, so that the reader feels assured that eventually we will get to the answer of that, just not yet. That has to do with editing, which we will be talking about next week. We'll talk about editing your own work, as well as what to keep in mind when hiring editors. There's various kinds of editors you can hire. And we're going to talk about what to keep your eye out for when you are hiring, how to, because this is essentially a working relationship.
I will say just right now, from experience, for anybody who's currently going through this, find somebody that you can talk to, because you will have questions. Because every editor I've ever worked with thinks that the master document that they send you is the most brilliant piece of fiction ever. Of course it is, because they're an editor, they wrote it. And you will have questions. Make sure to find out that you can talk to them about what the notes are they sent back. And also try to talk to them ahead of time and find out if they're just a pretentious jerk who doesn't know what they're talking about. Because I've worked with them too.
Or unprofessional and they ghost you.
No comment.
Did anybody have final words or any thoughts they wanted to share?
I guess the only final thoughts that I can truly share on this topic is thanks to Fairy Law in the comments here. This is project that was born is now called Project Doomageddon, and I will be referring to it as such going forward. Thank you.
Okay.
I now know what I'm working on. Now,
Go ahead.
What you got,
have
Chad?
fun. Like I say with a lot of things here, have fun. We take a lot of this way too seriously, and living in the digital age, if you are wrong, you can edit it later. You can change it. You can change mid-course. I have had books come out that were not performing well. I changed the covers on them. I changed the blurb on them. I have done this throughout my career because it's all about testing. Everything that you're doing is about testing and knowing when to just let go and move on to the next project. And so don't feel like you have to get it right the very first time. If you start noticing in reviews people saying certain things that you're not talking about in your blurb, rewrite your blurb. I don't think any of the books that I have up have anything like their original blurb except for the 2 books that I put out last year. And it's just because they haven't been out long enough for me to see what needs to be edited and changed about them. So don't stress about it. Perfection is the enemy of all art.
I would add to that, since it was brought up earlier, of find some friends to and sort of make a game of writing a whole bunch of blurbs for this book. And, kind of like how we do on Wednesdays with writing titles and stuff. And just see what pops up and save all of them. You may want to rewrite them slightly, but they give you the idea of, to other people, what stands out in your story. It's it's an easier shortcut if you can find any friends to kind of read and then say, what is it that stands out, right? You write about the story in 2 or 3 sentences. Because, it can be really hard to think what is appealing and interesting in your story in under, a paragraph.
I love doing book reviews for other people's books. I hate doing them for my own. I hate doing the back cover blurbs on my own stuff. I feel like I'm never right about my own things. And that, again, is where having fellow writer friends can be very helpful. Or if you're just financially independent, you can just hire somebody. Throw money at the project. You do you. Nevertheless, I still think what we're talking about is important, even if you do have money to throw at the project. Because how will you know somebody's doing a good job, or what is a good job, if you have no idea how to do it? So, nevertheless, I still practice it, still give it a try. Try writing book reviews about books that you are very familiar with, and then post them. Share them with other people. See what resonates with them. Once you feel like, okay, I kind of have this writing book reviews people respond to, then try writing back cover blurbs for books you're familiar with. And then see if you can write it for yourself. Perhaps all you need is an editor to kind of, punch up yours, which is still not something that's going to take an editor very long. But at least give it a try. Work on it.
All right, I think that's about it. What we doing next week, Gloria?
Editing, I just said.
There.
Remember? You were there
Yes.
the whole time here?
Yeah.
See,
You were here, I know.
I have a good excuse to be distracted because the food smells have started seeping out of the kitchen because he cooking.
It's broth, of course.
Oh, not just the broth. He's also doing a soba noodle thing for tonight.
Okay.
Udon. Sorry, udon. We talked about both. I got confused.
Get it right. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. What you got, Tom? What?
And just see if you want to join us Wednesday on Twitch. If you want to see how we, get these shows set up for Monday.
And then we're gonna go hang out in the Unicorn Council Discord server. If anybody wants to join us and hang out, we'll see y'all there. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.